Right, and I said I'd take you out for lunch, right?
I am, I'm writing that down. The mayor says we're going out for lunch each day, breakfast.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll meet you by the staircase.
Actually, with me, the breakfast, that's all.
I'll call the meeting to order. It is 5:01. Just as a reminder that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on the town's YouTube channel. We'll move on to section 2, just as a reminder to declare any pecuniary interests as they arise. Item 3, do we have any delegations? Nothing on the agenda? No delegations, so I will jump to item 4, which is the adoption of the committee meeting minutes. I have a motion moved by Jeff DeVlute, seconded by Councilor Wolvette, that the minutes be adopted by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee, and that those confidential minutes of the closed session of the committee remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And that is for the meeting we had on February 1st. I will open that up for any questions or concerns from the committee. Looking to my left, nothing. All right, nothing. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. I'll move on to section 5. If there's any business arising from the last meeting. Anything on my right? Nothing. On my left? Nothing. So I will move on to section 6 for accounts. I have a motion moved by Councilor Wolvette, seconded by Jeff DeVlute, that the accounts as listed be received by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee. That's the water list for December, the sewer list for December, and the water list for January, and a sewer list for January. So we received those in the agenda package. Were there any questions on my left?
The only question I would have, water leaks again. Looks like we had one on Egerman. And 2 leaks there at 6525 Kamlaki Road. Is caused by frost, or is, I understand the one in Egerman, they seem to.
Just caused by frost, especially with winter that we're having with the ground freezing and unfreezing, it moves it a lot, right? So. And Egermont Road is Egermont Road, so.
So the 2 on, if you don't mind to follow up, the 2 on Kamlaki Road. That, like, 2 of them right at the same address there.
I think those were, actually do the 5 of them, no?
No, these ones are listed as Plympton-Wyoming, so I'm not sure. I know we did a repair at the corner of his lot and Kamlaki Road for that resident after his line was hit due to the fiber coming through, but I don't recall having any plumbers out, so.
This one was Vaza.
So that, yeah. That would have been, yeah.
So you say that one was a hit by the
Yeah,
fiber optic?
they initially hit one spot and then 20 feet down, it actually pulled the water line apart as well, so.
So that may be the 2.
Pressurized, we found the second leak.
So then just to follow up, if you don't mind, do they come good for that? Pay for those leaks if they hit the lines?
Like how far?
Oh,
I can answer that question through the chair. So this was a service that actually runs off the end of a main in the village of Kamlaki. And we didn't have any records of the service. So it was hit, but nobody knew that the service was there. So now we do have a record. We put a layer on our GIS system so that we know that it's there, although we don't have accurate drawings for it. So that it can at least flag to us that there's a service there.
are you talking, if you don't mind me asking, are you talking about, I'm not sure what that back street right at the end where it goes into the bush? The service would run on into there, the sewers and.
I believe it's a service that came off, so on Egermont Road, there's a dead end water main with a meter chamber. There's a service that runs all the way down the road to this property. It's is it a chicken barn or something at that location? So he called us one day saying that he didn't have any water. I checked the system. I said, well, I'm surprised that you're saying that because we don't have any water mains on that road. When we got to investigating, we found out that he actually has a service that runs all the way from the village. So that's how that came to be. So they hit it while they were drilling. We found it, like Chris said, in 2 separate locations and repaired it.
So was that his own private line?
That's, we couldn't find any information on that. It's in the road allowance. And if we were to do something like that today, we would request that it goes on private property through an easement, but because it was in the road allowance, we repaired.
$5,000 or $6,000. Okay. But yeah, we didn't know it was there. We didn't know it was there.
Yeah, and time was of the essence because obviously you had livestock.
Yep.
So we just made the executive decision that we need to get it repaired.
But, sorry to follow up. So he has a water meter, right?
He does.
Well, okay. So somebody knew there was something there if they had a water meter.
Correct. We were able to check the water billing system, but when he called, you know, under the circumstances, I was looking at the maps to say, you know, where could this service even possibly be? And it was through that investigation that we determined where it came from, and then we were able to find it.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. A couple of questions. First of all, I see that we had Donnie Allenson down to the Wyoming water treatment plant to check out the water. I'm assuming that's for the use of the boom truck to go up and see why we didn't have it. Is that?
I can answer that question through the chair. So through the Wyoming wastewater treatment plant SCADA upgrades, we needed to increase our communications. So we were going through a process where we were trying to determine exactly how to do that. What we ended up doing was have Don Allison out there with the boom truck, and Celerity came out, tested the Wi-Fi signal, and we were able to determine that we could put up just a small antenna for communications. It as opposed to what we were planning to do before, which was install a ballast installation on top of the roof. It ended up actually being cheaper in the long run.
So he installed it at the same time when he was up there? Or it was just a test?
It was just a test.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. De Silva. Another one, but I've lost it. Liberty Communication, measure the cell signal. That's all related to the we're talking.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. That's all I have for now, I guess. You.
Am I right?
No questions or concerns?
No questions. Okay. So there's no further questions. We have the motion on the floor to receive those water lists and sewer lists. All in favor? Carried. Move on to section 7 for staff reports. We have 2 staff reports tonight. The first one, we have a motion moved by Jeff DeVlute, seconded by Councilor Wolvette. That the report submitted by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated February 28th, 2024, regarding the capital project status update be received as information. There's lots of good information in there. Paul, do you want to speak to it first, or do you want to still?
I will just say that this is something I plan maybe not to provide on a monthly basis, but maybe a quarterly basis as these projects progress and there's new information to report. I thought it'd be good information for the committee to have.
So if there's any questions from Paul, I'll look to my right.
Questions?
I had no questions. To my left.
Don't have any questions.
No, it was well put together report. Thank you. Monthly would be great.
So with that said, I will call for a vote. All in favor? That's great. .2 is the second staff report. We have a motion moved by Councilor Wolvette, seconded by Mayor Atkinson, that the report by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated February 28th, regarding water meter replacement, excuse me, and upgrade project be received, and that the attached correspondence to residents be approved. We'll open that up for conversation. Anything on my left, Councilor Wolvette, anything?
I would just like to congratulate the Mayor Atkinson for the position that he holds on laws there as an appointment as the vice chair. I'm reading that correctly?
We're in the staff report right now. Councilor Bell.
I didn't
Well,
make
thank,
sure that-
thank you very much. Sir, I appreciate that. You may want to tune in this month because I'll be chairing the meeting.
I just like to get ahead of you guys.
Thank you.
Any questions on that staff report, Paul? No. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad to see that the statistics that were provided for us, in between the soft refusal and the utility task. For the soft refusals, how are we dealing with those ones? And my second part of my question is the ones with the pits. I was very interested in that because I know we have several businesses, organizations, or even residents that have the pits that'll have to be addressed this springtime.
So through the chair, these soft refusals are, these are very difficult because they've received all the, like the full gamut of correspondence. So that's 3 letters plus 2 door hangers that were specifically delivered to these addresses. How we plan to address these is in the attachment, the correspondence where, and it's not meant to be threatening by any means, but just to reiterate the fact that our water use bylaw provides us with the ability to shut water off. And that we need them to reply so that we can get these meters replaced. So there is a letter attached that we're looking for endorsement for from the committee. So that when we gear this project back up in a few months, because we need to order some more materials and we want to wait for some of the seasonal folks to return, that we can send this letter out and in bold, it says your water will be shut off and we'll determine a date of when that has happened or when we intend that to happen. Now, we don't want to shut anybody's water off, but it's the only approach that we can take to ensure that people book an appointment.
Would you say a lot of them are seasonal that we have or resident, full-time residents?
I would say a majority of them are full-time residents because the seasonal homeowners reached out to us, so we know who they are. And they just weren't available, they just weren't at their houses to be able to book an appointment. So that's why we're hoping probably around the May long weekend is to send out correspondence to the seasonal homeowners, because hoping that they return to their summer residence.
Right. Okay.
And the second part of your question was the meter pits. So we went back and forth on this a lot from trying to replace existing meters within the pits. That's a challenge for a few different reasons. First and foremost, accessibility is a challenge because some of these pits are very small and they're difficult to work on.
Right.
The next challenge is that we just don't know where about 160 of them. So in speaking with Neptune, we think the right approach is to abandon the meter pits in place and install water meters within the residence in a climate controlled environment. Neptune has provided us with a change order to do that work. It doesn't cost that much more and there was contingency allowed for in the contract. So even once we do all these cut-in installations, we're not expecting that we're going to exceed our contract value.
So if I understand this correctly, if there's a pit right now, what you'll do is still maintain that, but you'll put the new meter inside the facility, the house or whatever.
Exactly. So water will still continue to flow through the old meter pit.
Right.
But we just won't read that pit anymore.
Okay.
In the future, when we do a reconstruction where we're replacing the water main, we'll make sure that we remove that pit at that time when we replace the service.
Got it. Because I know there's been some questions asked throughout the community about that, so it's nice to have the clarity that we know moving forward and that we're all on the same page. Yeah, no, thanks.
Anything on my right?
I guess I just have one question. How sure are we that these soft calls actually received all 5 of their documents? Only because I happen to know one person that just recently moved in to a home and they've received no notice. Luckily, I can advise them that they need to get it and I've asked them to call and book their appointment, but they've never received anything at their door or any letters even indicating there's a water meter replacement. They're just new to the town.
Yeah, through the chair. So we're reasonably confident that at least most of them receive the correspondence. Now, there will be some outliers because of, like you said, somebody moves in and the previous owner received the correspondence, or perhaps we don't have the right contact information in the utility billing program, because that's where we got the contact information from. So we could probably do a little bit more public education, put some stuff on the website. Saying that, you know, that these letters are gonna go back out, for example, and that if you haven't received one, to please contact the office. But unfortunately, we also considered calling everyone, making cold calls, but we don't have the contact information to do so. So, you know, mailing out correspondence is kind of the only way. Even knocking on doors, we did leave door hangers, so we tried that as well.
I have nothing further. I guess the only one thing I have is I'm wondering if it's possible to add to this template underneath the subject line in capital letters highlighted in yellow that just says action required. Perhaps just to really make it clear here that they need to do something. I'm just to really hammer home, like I know it's a pretty stern warning that you'll lose your water, but just to make sure they get that far in the letter.
You say immediate action,
What's this, right?
immediate action.
Something like that, just a trigger, like, oh, I better read this.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. We can definitely incorporate that.
Councilor Willett?
Yeah, I have a bit of a problem with B there, shutting off a water supply. You know, there's gotta be a lot of prior warning and maybe even bylaw involved, because, you know, there could be very elderly people in that residence, there could be kids in that residence. Shutting off of water is quite a serious thing to do. So I get it. I understand everything we're saying here, but let's make sure we exhaust all efforts. You know, to try to contact the person or by law or whatever. You know, we talk about these properties, we can't get a hold of them, you know, we seem to know where to get the property taxes and stuff and get them paid, so. I've run into this before being a counselor where, you know, they can't, we couldn't get a hold of them, we couldn't get a hold of them, you send people in there to cut their grass and charge them. Sent their property tax bill to the right address every year, so let's make sure we exhaust all the efforts possible. I mean, there may be some people just will have to be pushed to the limit, but elderly and kids involved, let's be really careful. And I know you will.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair. And the intention here is not to turn off anybody's water, but we know that once we do, somebody is gonna call and say, hey, I don't have any water. And that's the opportunity for us to engage with them. And we could get it turned back on right away, but we would also have them book an appointment right there on the spot. So that's the intent. And again, we don't want to turn off anybody's water. That's kind of the last resort here.
I mean, let's face it, we're not losing any money. They got meters now, so the meter's still going around if they're using water, so give it some, I guess that's why you call it soft.
Anything else? Seeing nothing? I will, we got the motion on the table to receive the correspondence and approved by the committee. All in favor? Carried. We have nothing under section 8, so I'll move on to section 9. I have a motion moved by Mayor Atkinson, seconded by Councillor Wolvett, that the minutes from the laws meeting on January 25th, 2024 be received. I'm gonna start with Councillor Wolvett. Do you have anything for this?
Just happy vice chair. I have
Am I right? Call for a vote, all in favor? We have nothing under section 10 for correspondence action required, so I'll move on to section 11. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wolvett, seconded by Mayor Atkinson, that the correspondence related to recommended reading and routine approval and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee and filed accordingly. We have 2 items in there. We have the Jacobs monthly report for December and the Jacobs monthly report for January. So I'll start off with any questions from the committee. Anything on my right?
No questions.
See anything? No questions. On my left?
one there on Plympton wastewater monthly residential call, December the 29th at 3637 Egerman Road. Sewage was reported to be flowing out of a broken clean out at the property. Operators on site to clear a blockage and repair the damaged clean out. How did that get damaged?
Through the chair, it appeared like it most likely was damaged by shock or farm equipment, being that it was right beside a farm access. Most likely had a piece of plastic in it that caused a blockage. We cleared it, repaired it, maybe make sure that it's got lots of flags around it. I may go back out and actually lower it below grade and put an iron rod beside it just so that we can find it, but
Okay. Yeah, I just wondered, cause you see it broken, okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Nothing further? Call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. We want to section 12, new business related to environmental services. Anything on my left?
Just one thing, was gonna ask this question at the fire department, but it's really not a fire department issue. I think Paul might be able to answer it, but apparently we have a number of private fire hydrants in the municipality. Somebody asked me the other day about how many we had and who maintains them and stuff like that. So it's more of a question for here than, because since we take care of all the water lines and that. So do you know how many private hydrants there are? And do we have accessibility to them? And who maintains them after use and stuff like that?
So through the chair, I don't have a number on that, unfortunately. And we don't have them inventoried in our system, at least to my knowledge. The private, the commercial property or whoever owns them is required to maintain them. But no, we wouldn't be responsible for maintaining them at all on private property.
Okay, but we do have a number.
We
right?
certainly do, yes.
Okay, and I thought Adam was gonna talk to you, so I won't ask any more questions about it. You don't know, and I don't know the exact number, but something you and Adam might wanna talk about.
I can certainly look into the legislative requirements around maintenance for private hydrants.
No one, we already had this conversation with Adam. We do use a couple of their hydrants, but apparently there might be some agreement down at the county buildings there. So we practice there and stuff. So I think they have an agreement, but there's others as what worried about them. Those others that didn't know about. That's something for you to.
Through the chair, I mean,
Yeah.
so the hydrants at the county office, we actually do maintain those ones.
Jacob does?
Yes, yeah. As far as an example of another hydrant, that's a privately owned hydrant, there's one at the service center. And that is up to the landowner to maintain. Fire department has used it. And we responded to pump it out to make sure that it didn't freeze up on them, so.
Okay. You know about any others? Did you know that you made?
I'm nothing that we maintain other than the county building. But there is, I know of one here in town, south of the tracks. That is a private hydrant. Listed on our records as a private hydrant. So we don't touch it. But as far as an exact number or location, those landowners aren't exactly obligated to let us know. If they wanted the town or Jacobs to do maintenance on it, I'm sure some sort of agreement could be addressed at that time.
Yeah, when I got asked the question, kind of an oddball situation. In my mind, that you got a fire hydrant, it's private. So I guess my question is like, if there's a fire over there, does fire truck pulls up? Can they use that hydrant or not without permission?
Yeah, through the chair. I believe they can, and private hydrants are actually quite common. And in my previous role with all the industry in the area, they ran separate fire water systems, for example. It's no different than Siamese connection on the side of a building or sprinkler systems inside a building. They're all owned and maintained privately.
Okay.
My assumption would be required for insurance if they have it on the property, I'm assuming. To be maintained.
You know, I guess my follow-up question, and I'm certainly not gonna prolong it here, is that, does the fire department know where they are if they need to use them? Like, fire trucks are going somewhere where, obviously, these hydrants are in a spot where it's not other fire hydrants. So it's not on anybody's list or anybody's radar. Do they know where they are? Do they know where they're gonna operate? Anyways, let's just leave it there, but maybe it's something that we should know, or somebody should know.
Mhm.
The fire department probably knows. I would, but, well, you shouldn't say that, I don't know.
I'm assuming if it's a business or a commercial facility. In my recent experience, I was in the township where Paul was, we had to have our own fire emergency plan. We had to show where those hydrants were, and they were for use to the fire department if they're responding to our facility. So we had a map and a
Yeah.
legend there. And it was our responsibility to service and maintain them.
Okay. Okay, well, just something that came up, somebody asked me, and I had no idea. I, to be quite honest with you, I didn't even know there was privately owned fire hydrants, so. Okay.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
I do have one question I meant to ask up in accounts, but I can ask for new business. And I can't remember if we got an update on this. Is the Muskoka Shell project done now? Because I saw there was a line item there. So is that project complete?
That project is complete. There is still some restoration work that will happen this spring as far as topsoil, grass seed or sod, and a few driveway panels that will be replaced. But everybody does have a new service from the water main to the curb stop.
Thank you. That's all I had. Anything from?
Nothing for me,
Nothing.
Mr. Chair.
So I will read the last motion of the day here, moved by Mayor Atkinson, seconded by Councilor Wolvette. That the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee regular meeting be adjourned until the next regular meeting to be held April 4th, 2024 at 5.